And this project will help you with what? This is used to track the progress of migration across heterogeneous environment. In the sense, it could be your VMware ESXi or Hyper-V or physical servers or other clouds as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and create a project. So like any resource that which you create on Azure, it will ask few default questions, right? So of course, subscription for billing, the resource group where you want to go and put this particular, what you call it as project, and the project name itself, I'll name it as demo migration project, and a location. So this location is basically to store the schema of this particular project. It has nothing to do with the migration of the resources. So this stores, when you create a project, it should store the configuration information somewhere. That's where the geography is coming into picture here. It has nothing to do with your, what you call it as, resources where you are migrating. Now, once you feed this information in your Migrate project blade, then it will ask you the next question, boss, what tool you are going to use for assessment. Now, as we discussed here in our slide, we have either Azure assessment tool or we have an ISVs. Now, it is up to you what you want to use, right? Now, let us say I want to go with Azure Migrate Server Assessment Tool for my discovery and assessment. That's why I'm selecting this. Now, if you want to go with third-party tool, you can select these options. And to get more information, you may have to refer the vendor portal. Okay. Now, I'm going with Azure Server Assessment Tool. The next step it is, okay, you selected for assessment Azure Server Assessment Tool. But what is the tool that which you are going to use for migration? So do you use ISV tools or do you use Azure tool itself? So I am more interested on Azure Migrate Server Migration Tool, which is free one, which I can go and use. Then I'm done with the tools. So what did we do in a project creation? We told Azure that, okay, in this project, I'm going to use this assessment tool and this migration. That's what we did in the project. So once you create the project, then your actual discovery and assessment and migration will happen within this project that whatever you create. Okay, so I created a project. The first step that what I need to do is a discover. Now, how do I do that? So once you have this project created, I'm waiting for this. Okay, so we have this. Now I created a project with the name called as a demo migration project. You can see it here. If you have multiple projects, you can switch between them. I have one more project and this is the one we just created. Okay, so this is how your default configuration looks like. Now, what is the first step that which I need to do? I need to go and discover. First step. In the assessment phase, this is for assessment. This is for migration. In the assessment, my first step is discover. So when I go with the discovery, it will asking me, okay, boss, what is that you are going to discover? Are your virtual machines virtualized? Are your machines virtualized is a question. So the question that which it is asking me is, okay, so what is that you are going to discover? Is it a VMware environment? Is it a hypervisor environment with Hyper-V? Or is it a non-virtualized environment? Could be a physical server. So based on the option that which you select here, it will give you an appliance. If it is VMware, it will give you an appliance of 12 GB. If it is Hyper-V, it will give you a VHD file of 12 GB. If it is a non-virtualized environment, it will give you some EXEs where you can go and create a software, a server with the software that will help you with discover. So I'm more interested on VMware vSphere hypervisor. In order to do a discovery, I need to download this appliance. Now, once I download this appliance, I need to import that appliance to my vCenter or any VMware environment. Then I need to configure in order to do the migration. 3 steps. So in order to do the discovery, I need to go and download a OVA file and then import that and then configure it. And to explain you more, the same appliance I will be using for migration as well. Okay, so we'll try to understand that. Now this appliance, let us say when I click on download, it downloads OVA file. Now how does this OVA file looks like? So your OVA file will be something like this. Azure, what do you call it as Microsoft Azure migration OVA file, which is around 11.1 GB, which I had already downloaded. So once I have this, I can go and import. What do you call it as the tool here in my vCenter. You see here, deploy an OVA template, right? So you can what you call it as import that here, right? You can import, right? Deploy OVA from template, or you have here deploy. You can just import it from here. Okay. Now what I am going to do here is, because I got some constraints with the vCenter resources, I'll import this on what do you call it as on a VMware workstation. Just for more lab perspective, I need to do it here. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to file open, and then I'll select this migration appliance and click on open. Then what it does is it basically imports an appliance like this. Now what is this appliance all about? It is a Windows machine preloaded. Preloaded with what? With the tools that whatever are needed for assessment and discovery. So when you go and import your appliance, then it creates a virtual machine. Now how does it does? Let me show you quickly. So let me select this, say open. Then it'll ask me, boss, what is the name that which you want to give and where you want to store this appliance. When you click on import, it creates a virtual machine like this. So then you get into this virtual machine, then you start configuration of this. That's what here, if you look at, what does it say? Download, create virtual machine, configure it. Okay. Now let us assume that you downloaded and imported this and you need to go with the configuration. Now what is that you need to do for configuration? You see a small shortcut here, Microsoft Azure. Let me take you to the full screen. Yeah. So Microsoft Azure Appliance Configuration Manager. So this is the tool that which will help you to configure your appliance. Now what configuration does it got? It got license agreement. It goes and checks internet connectivity because it has to talk to your, what do you call it as, project that which you just created. Then it checks the times, whether it is internet time server sync is there or not. Then it checks whether this appliance is latest migration updates. It has got whether it has got a latest migration updates or not. And then it will ask you to install a small development kit from, what do you call it as, VMware. Okay, so these are the prerequisites that which are needed. Now this is for what? This is for your appliance. So how does this actually work? Right, let me so this is your on-premises. Let us say on-premises itself you have appliance, and the on-premises has got your VMware environment, And your VMware environment will be configured to this appliance. And on your cloud, you have a migration project. And your appliance will be configured to talk to this migration project. So what this appliance is doing is taking the inventory or the information from your backend VMware, and then it feeds to your project. That's how your discovery is actually working. So this has got all those tools and softwares that whatever are needed in order to read your backend VMware environment and feed that data here. So that's the reason you need to configure this particular, what do you call it as, appliance to both your backend VMware environment and your Azure project we created. So it seems there are some updates. It's asking me authentication using local credentials. I just provided them. Okay, so it is trying to get the updates. Now the updates are installed. It's asking me to restart the browser, what do you call it as, web application, whichever we are using. And it goes and quickly rechecks. This time your migrate update should be green. Okay, so the next what it is asking is, boss, it is asking me, boss, install VMware vSphere virtual disk development kit. So I need to download this from VMware environment. So if you click on this download option, it will take to your VMware site from where you need to download it. You should have, what do you call it as, a subscription if you're not, or sign up. If not, you have to go and subscribe yourself. Right, so this is the zip file, which is virtual disk development kit, that which is needed. I'm just downloading this. And I'll save this on desktop. Now, once I download this, then what is that it is asking? Okay, you download and go and put it where? Put it here in this folder. Okay, so see program files, VMware virtual disk development. Right, so this is the folder where I need to go and copy whatever I downloaded. Okay, so let me go to the folder, extract this. And these are the files that which you get. I need to copy them and put it in C:program files, VMware, and virtual disk development. So there are no files. I have to go and paste this. So these are needed for discovery process. So once you copy this, click on verify. Now you are done. Okay, so you are done with the prerequisites. I have to click next to go to the next phase. Now register with the Azure Migrate. So the next step, what it is asking me is, boss, go and register this appliance to your Azure Migrate project. That's what we are doing here. Okay. So in order to register, I need to log into my Azure portal with the ID which has got credentials to access that project, right? So I'm logging with my username and password. Right, so now you can see you have signed into the Microsoft Azure PowerShell application from this device. So which means that our authentication is successful. If you go back, then you see subscriptions, and then you should see the project that which you created, right? So I'll go and select the subscription pay as you go. Then I should see my project I just created, demo MIG project. And it will ask me an appliance name to identify this device within the project. One project can have multiple appliances. So I'll name this as appliance 1 and then register. So now this appliance is getting registered itself with the project that which you created here. So with this project, it is registering. So you are done with registering this part, but you have to integrate these two as well, your VMware and your appliance. That's what the next step is. So it says registration successful. Click on continue. Then it will ask you, must provide the vCenter details, your backend or the source from where you want to migrate. So I need to give my vCenter IP address. It is 192.168.19.213. Right, and of course a username password. This guy, whoever you are using this ID, whatever you are using here, it should have at least read access to your vCenter. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have that. So I'm using my local credentials here, and then of course password. Then click on validate. It will go and try to talk to your vCenter server and connects to it using the credentials that whatever you provided. So once this part is done, then your actual discovery will start. You can see the next step is save and start discovery. Okay, it seems some credentials problems. Let me try to give it once again. Right, so once the authentication is done, what will happen is it will give you a start and discovery option. I'm just waiting for that to finish. Okay. What happened? Let me try it. Okay, so what I had already done is I had configured and kept things ready actually here in another thing to save some time. It seems some authentication issues, but what vSphere.local, I'll check that what the problem is. But so this is how it will be actually. Okay, so you did your prerequisites, you did your credential validation, right? You can see here it is validated successfully. Then you have some option here which will allow Azure to get into the server. So how does it will get into your vCenter hosted guest machines? You have to provide some credentials, right? So you can also feed the login credentials to get into the server itself. And why is that needed? It will discover the application inventory as well, right? So for that, what you need is you need these credentials. Okay, so you need these credentials. So it's very simple, straightforward configuration. So that's how you go and register your appliance to your vCenter and your project. Okay, now, so in the interest of time, what we had already done is we had created another project and we did all that activity what we just did. Okay, now So once you are done with that configuration, you will see the servers that whatever you have here on your vCenter, right? I have 4 servers. Now all those 4 servers should be visible here under the discovered items, right? You should be able to see all those servers here. So whatever the servers that which you have there on the vCenter are available where? Are available within your project that which you created, right? The project that which you created. So these are all 4 servers which are there in the vCenter. So these are all your discovered servers. Now I use these discovered servers to understand what is the requirement, how things are, what is the utilization of those servers, and of course, this is how your discovery data will look like. Now, what is that? You have server 2 with this IP address, and it says that it has got 5 applications. You can see applications which are installed there. And of course, you can also see dependencies. Now, this is very useful one when you have multi-tier applications. Now, it is useful to understand dependencies between the servers. Now, it says that server 1 is talking to server 2, and server 2 is talking on these ports. If you have multi-tier applications, that entire mapping will be listed here. So these things are only possible when you install these agents that which this dependency agent that which I just said. So you need to definitely install this monitoring agent and this dependency agent. So then only you will be able to see this view. And where you need to install? You need to install these on your servers that which you are migrating. Okay. Now, so you discovered these servers. Now I need to do an assessment of these servers. So the first step is discover, the next step is assess. So you can create an assessment. And this is how your assessment creation will look like. Now, what is that you want to assess? Machines discovered using Appliance or some machines which are imported. You can import using Excel file also, but we are not going to discuss that now. I am more interested in assessing the servers which are discovered using our Appliance. And you need to give some name to this, right? So I'll name it as demo appliance or demo assessment. Okay. Now in this assessment, it will ask you a few questions before it will give you the assessment results. Now what are those questions? Very important and interesting questions. Okay. Now assessment properties. There are 13 properties that which you need to feed in order to get right data. Now let us quickly look at all these 13, not just 3. You have only 3 here, but let us look all 13. Now the assessment will ask you these questions. Boss, what is your target location where you are going to migrate? First question. What is the storage type, whether you are going with premium or standard? If standard, then whether it is SSD or HDD, or you want Azure to select automatically. I was saying it has got those inbuilt analytics which will help Azure Migrate project to judge which storage requirement will fit for this. And are you reserving these instances? If it is 1 year, 3 years, no reserve means more cost. 3 years reserve means less cost. You get more discounts, but there might be an upfront cost, or there might be an amount that which you will be paying to Azure in advance. Whether you use it, you don't use it, you will be paying for those 3 years, but your cost will be less. So that is another decision. Now, what is the VM size that which you want to select? Now, this is another critical selection here. Now, I was saying whether you want to size the VM based on the performance or as is whatever you have on premises. Now, if a server is 50% utilized, if I want to save money, then I'll go with performance based. Now, this assessment tool will get performance data from your VMware vCenter and tell you that, okay, so this server is 50% utilized. Now, I'll go and recommend only based on the utilization. Or if you go with the second option, it takes whatever the size that which is allocated to the server on the VMware environment. Okay, so these two are very important factors. Now, okay, so if you're going with performance based, how many days performance data you want this tool to consider to recommend a size. 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. To get better result, 1 month is an ideal one. No, if you don't want to go with that, you can go with on-prem. If you are going with performance based, then what is the percentile utilization of that data that which you want to consider? These are all calculations. Now I'm interested to go with on-prem as is. Now, what are the sizes you want to use in order to perform the assessment? Few may want to use only D series, some of the companies. Some of the companies may use only M series, which is memory optimized, or F series, and so on. So I don't have any objection in selecting all the series. Let it recommend whatever it has to. Comfort factor, which will help you to define the comfort factor here. It's basically the buffer and utilization and so on, right? Additional resources that which you want to allocate. And then pricing. So as I said, this assessment will give you the pricing as well, right? Now, you may have multiple subscription types, right? If you might be an enterprise agreement customer, you might be having an MSDN subscription and so on. But I am interested more on pay as you go. And then I am interested in showing the price in INR. And if you have a hybrid benefit, now what is the hybrid benefit? I already have licenses for my operating system. Then I don't want Azure to charge additional for that. Then I'll go and use this hybrid benefit where there could be a reduction in the cost and you will be saving some money there. So these are all those 13 properties that which you will be defining in order to get an assessment result. Now, what is that you said? Which location you are going to move. Based on the location also charges will change. Storage, instances reserved, size, and pricing model. Then I created this assessment. I reviewed this assessment, and then I need to put this assessment along with a group, right? I'll name it as demo GRP. And during the creation, you selected an appliance, right? You may have multiple appliances. I have only one appliance here. Now, for what servers you want to apply this assessment? I want to select all the servers and then create an assessment. So now you are using the data which is discovered. You're creating an assessment out of that. Now, once your assessment is ready, you will be able to see very interesting and useful data. So let us wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, so now so while that gets created, I already have one assessment here which we already created. To save some time, I'll show you that. Okay, now you see two assessments which we just created, the other one which I created earlier. Now, if you look at this assessment data, if you go here, what does it say? Now, readiness, it says ready for Azure 3, ready with conditions 1. Cost, so and so, so and so. Now, if you click in detail about readiness, then you see which servers are ready, which servers are not ready for migration. This is your assessment data, and it is giving you the recommendation on the size. Right, and this size has got certain what do you call it as configuration, CPU, memory, and so on, right? So it automatically reads your data and helps you to understand which size fits for your requirement. And there is one Windows 10 machine, which is a client machine, which it says ready with conditions. And what are those conditions? It says that it requires some Visual Studio, some software. So what I need to understand here is this assessment will help you which machines are ready. In this, you can see 75% are green and 25% are amber. And there could be servers which are not ready as well, which are 0 right now. And of course, you can export this data and send it to your manager or whoever wants to look into it, which gives you a very beautiful pictorial representation along with the good analysis. And it gives you confidence rating and what this and pricing and all those things are very much part of this assessment extract. Now, what are the parameters? 13 parameters you specified, all of them are listed here. So now once you assess your data, then you have that discovery and assessment data. You can group them as a project, you can group them based on applications and so on. Then you can start your migration. So what you see here in the dashboard of your project, your assessment tools, which includes your discovery servers, your groups which you create, your assessments, and some notifications which will give you some warnings, which is nothing but your Windows 10 machine, which says that, okay, so tools are not installed on this machine. So once you have this assessment, you can go into the overview and look at what you call it as summary of your assessment itself. So it says that 4 machines are there, 2 assessments are there as a part of this particular assessment, and 2 groups, and this is ready, this is not ready, and so on. So once you have this assessment done, then you do your actual migration. So you did your discovery, you did your assessment using your assessment tool, and now you do a migration using server migration. And this migration tool, it is an inbuilt tool here itself in the project. That's the reason initially I was saying this project has got all those tools that which are needed for you to perform the entire activity from discovery to migration. So once you are done with the discovery servers, they are available in the migration tools as well, the same 4 servers. Now, if you go to these 4 servers, now you can use this option called as replicate to migrate your servers. So when you click on this replicate option, it will ask you, boss, what is that you want to replicate? I want to replicate VMware vSphere servers. Okay, but what appliance? I have this appliance on premises, which is used for my discovery. You use this. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so you said that VMware, and this is the appliance from where it has to get the data. The next step is virtual machines. What virtual machines? I want to migrate the virtual machines which are done, which are available using my Azure Migrate assessment tool. Okay, so this is the tool you are saying, but in this tool, what group, what assessment you performed? Then it will give me that list of virtual machines that which I can migrate. Now here it is giving me 0. Reason being I had already migrated them. I had already initiated the migration. Now let me show you by selecting the other option. Maybe I'll show by selecting a different one. Give me a minute. Assessment 2. Okay. Okay, so the other appliance anyway, it is not visible here. But what I am trying to explain you here is when you select this option of replicate, what is that you are specifying here is you are specifying what appliance you want to use, then the virtual machines which you want to select, right? Then it will list all those machines that which are available. And then it will, you have to definitely define certain settings here. What are they? Target settings. When I migrate my virtual machine, under which VNet it has to go and sit, in which geographical location it has to go and sit, what size you have to select, what disk you want to select. All those things anyway it will pick from your assessment results itself by default. If you want to change, you can go and change them. I'm not able to show this because these are grayed out, but what is these things here that which you see in the replication is source settings, which, and then your virtual machines available in that source, target settings, which VNet, which subnet, which subscription, which geographical location, and so on. And then compute in the sense size of your VMs. Disks, you can change it, though it recommends premium, you can go and change it to standard. Then you start actual replication. So that's what it will happen in the what you call it as next 3-4 blades. For some reason, for the appliance, because it is not registered yet, I'm not able to show it. But those are the things that which are visible. Now, once you perform that steps, then you can see these servers that which replicates themselves to your what you call it as destination. Now, these are the two servers which got replicated to your Azure cloud. Now, once you replicate them, what are the steps? If I show it here in the overview, the first step is replicate, which means that after discover, you are replicating them. The next step is test the migration. You don't do straight away migration. Before you do actual migration, you do a test migration. Then you do an actual migration. So replicate, do a test migration, then perform the actual migration if this test is good. So when I replicate, this is how things will be, right? You see two machines here, and out of which one machine is migration phase is test migration pending. The other one is test cleanup pending, which means that it is already initiated with testing. Okay, so let me go with this second server. I want to do a testing before I do an actual migration. So how do I do that? I go to this discovered server, server 2. And then you see here an option called as test migration. Click on test migration. And it will ask you to select the VNet where this test migration VM should sit. Then it creates a virtual machine. So what it does is it creates a test virtual machine like this. I created a testing for server 1, then it created a test virtual machine called with a name called as test server 1-test. Now all you need to do is you need to go and log into it, perform all those tests, and then once you're confident that this machine is good for actual migration, then you perform the actual migration. So how do you do that? Right? So here, replicated servers 2, test migrated servers 1. So this server 1 is in the cleanup process. So if server 1 is as tested and all good, then I can go and do a cleanup of the test. Once I do a cleanup of the test, then this migration option that whatever I'm seeing which is grayed out here will be enabled. So what is that Azure is asking you is, boss, before you do a actual migration, you go and do a testing of your server and make sure that everything is working fine. Then you do a cleanup, then you are allowed to do a actual migration. So how do I do a cleanup? I can go to these test servers, select the server where I am done with my testing and I am good with that. And I'll say that, okay, I'm done with the testing, clean up the test migration. Then I'll say a comment that all good for migration. Testing is completed. It created a dummy virtual machine, right? I'm good to go and delete that and clean it up. So then what it does is it deletes the test virtual machine, what it created for testing, then it enables you the actual migration option. Then you will go and do the actual migration. I'm waiting for this machine to get deleted. So the other one that we just initiated is in the server 2, it is in the creation process. The server 1, because we are done with testing, we initiated the cleanup, so it is deleting the VM. Once it deletes this VM, Now you should be able to see this option of migration enabled for server 1 because you are done with testing. You told your project that all good, I am good with the migration. Then what you see here is for server 1, this migrate option will be enabled, right? It is in the process of what do you call it as changing things. You can see that cleanup in progress status. Once the cleanup is done, then you will see this migrate option will enable, right? I'm just waiting for that. So it takes a couple of minutes. I wish I would have shown you end to end, but in the interest of time, we have to split this fast forward little bit. But this is the best way where we can cover this in 1 hour 15 minutes or 1.5 hours. Okay, so I go back to the test success server. It is still cleanup in progress. So once the cleanup is done, you will see this migration option enabled. So let me quickly jump to our slider so that we'll see if there is anything that which we missed theoretically. So we discussed these things. So we are done with the discovery and assessment. And based on the assessment, you actually migrate, and you migrate to a target settings. As I said, you will be saying your migration tool that I need to put my resource in this region, in this subscription, in this VNet, and these sizes, and so on. Then you perform a replication. Then you perform the migration test. Then you perform actual test. Right? So that's how things will be. So let us see if it is refreshed. If it is done. Yeah. So now this cleanup process is done, your actual migration is enabled. So that's the reason to go to your project itself, test migrated servers 1, replicated servers 2, total servers 4, right? So now if I go back and initiate the migration, then it performs your actual migration. Now, when you migrate, it will ask you a few questions. Now, shut down the virtual machines and performed a planned migration with no data loss. I am migrating my on-premises server 1, right? When I perform a migration, do you want this server to be up and running, or you want to power off this machine because I am migrating? You may want to power it off to avoid some conflicts. That's how generally people will do it. And if you don't want those two are isolated environment, no impact as such, then you can go with option of no. But I prefer shutting down that machine. Then it performs the migration. Right? Now, in some time, you should be able to see, you will be able to see this server 1 getting powered off. I think it's already powered off, right? So, okay. Right, so then it will start the actual migration, right? Starting the migration of this server, starting the migration of server test of that server 2. This is server 1, which is the actual migration we initiated. Now, what is that it is doing for migration? Checking the prerequisites, shut down the virtual machine on premises, preparing for migration, creates a virtual machine, starts a virtual machine. 5 steps. So this is pre-checks are done. It's saying that it is powering off your on-premises virtual machine. And how does it do? It asks this appliance to initiate this command. Because this appliance has got a user ID which authenticated this to your VMware, then it could be able to power off this machine, right? That's how things will work here. Okay, so let us wait for this to complete. But it may take a few minutes. In the meantime, what we can do is What else we have here? Now this is migration which we are working on. Okay, so in the meantime, if you guys got any questions, maybe you can put them on the chat, or Shruti, you want to unmute and take some questions while this migration goes on, while we see this completion. Or guys, you may put, if you have any questions on the chat, then we can pick them and try to answer them to the maximum extent.
Thank you so much, Vijay, for sharing this session with us. And I am very sure that this is everyone found this very in-depth knowledge. Even if someone do not have much knowledge, they would have a pretty good idea now about how to do this. So I am enabling chat window now. So please pour in your questions if you have any, and let us know if you have any question. While this migration is going on, we can go through these questions.
So now we are seeing it is preparing for migrations. I see one couple of messages here. Okay, so how is that IP addressing is managed? So you go and select the target, right? So when you migrate, what you're doing here is you select the target, right? So if you look at Shruti, you may have to go on mute. Just go on mute, Shruti. Yeah. So you're defining your target setting here. In that, you are defining your VNet and subnet. So in Azure, your VNet and subnet defines the IP address range, right? So where your machine will get, or what your machine will get. So in the designing itself, before you actually migrate, you design your virtual network, right? So that's where your private IP address is coming into picture. Now, if you have a requirement of public IP address, then you can go and add that particular resource post migration to the network interface card of the VM wherever you need a public IP address, right? So that's how you will be configuring that part. Hope that answers your question. Does the process of migration remains the same? Yes, it is same. Only thing is the operating system varies. You may have to check what versions are supported within the documentation. You will be able to see within the documentation what OS versions are supported and so on, just to make sure that, yeah. So you can see server assessment uses the following logic here. You can see some information. You can refer documentation, what OS and other things are supported, but yes, it is the same process whether it is Windows or Linux.
One more question here I have got, Vijay. Replicated server cannot be replicated again. This question is from Shekhar.
You can do a delta replication as well. For example, you are doing a replication of business hours, and maybe during the business hours you initiate the replication, and after business hours, maybe on weekend, you can do a delta replication and then do an actual replication. And if you feel that during the initial testing there is a problem, you can go back and make changes and then come back, replicate it again, and then test it. So that is very much possible.
Shekhar, I hope this answers your question.
Yes. The next question, can we integrate third-party ISV tools like Cloudscape? Yeah, you can use them, but they are not visible here. We can use them. Zerto is widely used. It is ZERTO, not XERTO. Cloudscape, and you have Cloud Amaze. Multiple tools are there in the market. Yes, you can use them. Once it is migrated, can we power on the machine on premises if we are missing any data? Yes, because that's the beauty or advantage of this migration, right? You are keeping on premises as is, and if you feel some problems during the migration or after the migration, you can always go and power on your on premises machine, right? So there is no problem anything as such. It shouldn't be a problem because you power on your machine here on cloud, you can go and power off your machine on cloud, then you can go and power on your machine on premises as a backup strategy for your migration. Do we have to resync again? See, during the replication, you can see here on the server itself, there should be an option here, repair replication, stop replication. So there should be an option here where you can go and re-replicate, resync before the actual migration. So that is very much there. You can go and resync your machine before you do an actual synchronization or migration. So where are we with this server one? Any other questions? We have time, guys. Feel free to ask. If you have any questions, we are here to take. It is still preparing for migration. So if you go to the virtual machines.
Hi Vijay, the chart window was the disabled.
I think, okay,
I
now
think
it
it's
is
enabled now because we got back. So I had to disable it. Now it is enabled. You can put on your questions.
Can we keep the test migration VM at least like in the live scenario 1 week or like 10 days, and we can test it on all the applications, and then we can go for a live migration, original migration?
absolutely, you can do that. Because until and unless you clean up you have this test server, right? You get into it and then you perform all those tests.
Yeah.
Then you go back to your project and you tell your project that I am done with my testing and all is good, right?
Yeah.
And then only your replication option is getting enabled. Otherwise, it won't, right? So that's how this tool is built as such. Okay, so beautifully structured and built.
Like when we enable the test migration VM, it's in the same network, it's the same IP series, or like how it's come actually?
Yes, you are putting in the same VNet where your production VM, the migrated VM will sit, right? Otherwise, okay, your testing is not in line with your migration, right? So it will be in the same VNet where you are actually migrating.
But we cannot get any issues with that, like original VM and the test migration VM. Any conflict?
Okay, so to answer your question, when do you actually do a replication of business hours, right? Now, if you want to keep that for days, you can do it, but those situations will come if there is no conflict with your on-premises. Maybe you should not use an overlapping IP address, so on. Then there are no issues as such. You can run your on-prem as is parallel. You can test things here also. That should not be a problem. But if you have conflicting maybe names of the servers or the IP address conflicting, then those are the situations which we need to be little careful. Most of the times in practical scenario, during the cutover time, you perform the testing, and then you take a couple of hours to understand things are working fine or not. You prepare the testing plan, follow all those points in the testing plan, sign off, then you are done, which may take 1 to 2 hours. Then you go and perform the actual migration.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you so much.
Okay, how do we compare Azure Migrate service with, okay, so typically Azure migration is used when target No, you can use CloudMS or Cloud. See, these are the tools, right? So Azure Migrate is only used for what do you call it as migration from on-premises environment to Azure. You can't use this tool for other service providers. Whereas your third-party tools, which you listed here, they are all ISVs, which means that from any platform to any cloud you can use them, right? So if you're already using some tools, then you can go and rely on them, use them to perform the migration rather you know doing using it Azure Migrate, right?
Vijay,
Mm-hmm.
Vijay, this is Praveen. So
Yep, right.
just wanted to know if the application that is on the premises
Mm-hmm.
has a single sign-on, and if you migrated to the Azure cloud,
Mm-hmm.
so the single sign-on would continue to remain for that migrated server, and everything logins and all will be fine.
Okay, single sign-on, it is basically at the app level, right? So, or if it is at,
App
most of
level,
the
okay.
times at the app level. Now, you need to make sure that you have that configuration or your server on Azure either reaching the same single sign-on server, or you can use a similar solution on Azure Cloud, whatever you are using, or there are some Microsoft inbuilt single sign-on as a part of Azure Active Directory is there. So for me, if I already have a single sign-on solution, I prefer using the same solution by enabling access to this to that single sign-on application from my server, which is migrated to Azure, right? So most of the times when you migrate, you will have a hybrid environment, which means that you have a VPN connectivity between your on-prem or cloud and so on. You can still redirect your traffic to on-prem if required, if you can't host that service on cloud, right?
Okay.
Does
So
Azure migrate? Okay, please go ahead.
so if there is a directory services that is enabled on the Azure side also, then I think the single sign-on will be comfortable.
Yeah, so there are multiple solutions when we talk about directory services,
Okay.
Praveen, actually. So you can go with AD replication from on-premises. You can create additional domain controller on cloud itself, use like how you use it on the on-prem. Or
Okay.
some people will use, there is a platform as service called as Azure Active Directory Domain Services that can also be used. Or if you want to use, if you are using some SaaS application, only software as service application, you can integrate that with Azure Active Directory, right? So in Azure Active Directory, you can get all those multi-factor authentications and single sign-ons and all those things in built one. So
Okay.
you have to get a premium subscription here, right? So then you will be able to use those services.
Okay.
Does Azure Migrate service need Azure AD, which will sync with on-premise? Azure AD is only for SaaS application. Azure Active Directory, you cannot compare with Active Directory domain services. Azure Active Directory will help you to use the on-premises replicated user IDs and passwords for your SaaS applications. Maybe your ServiceNow, maybe your Office 365, SharePoint, those type of apps may need some authentication. Those SaaS applications can be integrated with your Azure Active Directory, right? So Active Directory domain service is different from Azure Active Directory.
Hey, just here.
Yeah, please go ahead. Can you please be a little louder? I have some difficulty in.
Okay. Is it better?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, in case there's a database running on one of the on-premise machine, right? So, so what will be the track which will be taken by Azure migration services for doing that? Is it going to be a separate database migration which get initiated, or is it when it is found in the discovery stage, right? In terms of a DB running, right? Could be one of the SQL DB or a no SQL DB? How does that migration help in terms of assessing that type of instance?
Okay, so when you does a discovery, right, then you sit across and try to see whether this application can be migrated as is, or do I need to re-architect this? Do I need to redesign this? All those discussions will come. Okay, so there might be some applications which might not even be compatible. Now, in this case of database, then you go and find out you have a number of databases, maybe SQL, Oracle, DB2, and whatever, right? Now, if for me, if I'm a decision maker, then I have to go and look at whether I should use a PaaS service or infrastructure as service. Now, if there is a database which is available as platform as service, then I prefer migrating my database to platform as service. Or if you need more control, then you can convert as is, like migrate as is, like what we are doing, right? Now you have these databases, right? So migration tool specifically for a database, which Azure provides you to perform the migrations, right? So using their migration tools, we can go and perform, right? So you can see all those supported workloads. This is lined up in the next class. Maybe I think you can join there, then you get more insights on that. But to answer your question, multiple solutions. Again, you want to move as is, then you go and do a lift and shift like what we are doing now. Or if you want to use a PaaS service, then use a migration tool and use that to migrate to a PaaS service, right?
Yeah, so Vijay, thanks for that. I think that's understood. My question was, while I know that you are going to cover database migration in next classes, my question was that even while doing the infra as a service migration, right now, if there's a particular workload which is running on premise and there's a database running on that, does the Azure migration services give me a trigger saying that there's a database running and this needs to be done for that, sort of guidelines to that, rather than trying to do a lift and shift?
Yeah, so when you go and discover, you will find out, right? So when you go and discover, now you get this data which will tell you that there is a database here, right? And then under the dependencies or even under the apps, if you go and look at the installed apps, you'll see all that information, what apps are there on the server. Now, using that, you can take a call what databases you have and what solution you want to use, right? I'm not sure if I am answering your question.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so you are saying it's a manual. So I was under the impression that Azure migration share services trigger a sort of a flag which says it's a database. So the user needs to take a call in terms of whether to do it a manual migration using one of the database replication tools, which might be native.
Yes. So it
Yeah.
does give you that information. It does give you
so that's
that
what I was
information.
looking. Yeah. Okay.
It does give you that information. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Does Azure provide device to copy large amounts of data physically copy? Yeah, data copying. You can do data copying to the Azure storage. If the data is small, then you can do it using Storage Explorer or AZ Copy. There are multiple solutions around that. If you have TBs of data, you can ask Azure to ship disks. They will ship the disk to your data center. You can copy the data and then ship them back. They'll upload, they'll connect those disks to the storage environment, and then you can copy them back to the storage. That is a solution you have when it comes to storage migration. Okay, so let us go back and see what is that we are. Okay, so if I go back to this migrated servers, okay, so here the test migration, right? Server one, it says status, it is migrated, which means that my server one should be available here, right? So the server that which is running here, right? So which is in a powered off state is migrated to my Azure environment, and it picks the IP address, whatever, what do you call it as my VNet provides, and I can get into this using my IP address, private IP address. Or if I am accessing this over the internet, all I need to do is I need to go to the network interface card and assign a public IP address to this, right? So IP configurations, there's no public IP address for this, but because I am accessing over the internet, then I definitely need a public IP address. Then I'm just creating one public IP address so that I can show you that we are able to access it. Okay, so I'm creating this. Okay, save it. Now this machine will have a public IP address using which I can get into that. But in real time, you don't assign public IP address to every machine after the migration. Okay. Now, let me quickly go back and connect to this. It is yet to show me the public IP address. It is still in the process of assigning. Now, while that gets assigned, there will be definitely post-migration activities, a series of steps which you use to test the applications, or maybe some DNS changes if you want to use different IP address, but the server name should be the same, or CNAME records. Those are the things that which will definitely be there if there is any requirement. Okay, so those will be part of your post-migration steps, which will be done after the migration is done. So I have this public IP address assigned. If all is well, then I will be able to connect to this machine using RDP. Okay, so I'm not able to connect. Let me check the NSG rules. There are no NSG rules. By default, everything will be blocked. So what I need to do is I need to go and create a network security group rule here, right? I don't see any inbound security rules, right? So what I do is I'll quickly go to the network interface card and I'll create NSG. Okay, let me create here and tag it. So my VM is in which location? Central US, maybe. Just give me another 5 minutes. We are done. Just I want to show you the accessibility before we wind up. Okay, so this one is running in Central US. Okay, I'll create my NSG in Central US. Right. Now what I have to do is I have to go and add those rules, which will allow me to access this VM over the internet, right? So otherwise, not be. So, but in the real-time environment, you don't do this. You do it at the subnet level, right? So when you create your VNet and subnets, you go and create your NSG rules there. So let me add an inbound rule which says, okay, source internet, source port, okay, destination 3389. And I'll leave things as is because it's just a test. So I'll go ahead and add it. Now I added this rule to allow 3389. I need to associate this to a network interface card which uses this. And this is our network interface card. Okay, so in order to assign this, my VM should be in the powered off state. So I need to power it off, stop, and then assign it. But this is how it will be. Okay, so I don't want to take too much of time. You assign that NSG to this particular NIC card, you will be able to access it because there are no rules which are allowing you to get into that VM on 3389. You are not able to take the RDP on public IP address. Okay. What else I have? I think I am done. Shruti, if there are no questions, back to you.
Thank you so much, Vijay. It has been a great session, and I hope everyone find it very useful. And I would request everyone to do suggest what the next session is should be about. So though we have planned for the next session has to be about the SQL Server migration. We'll be looking at how we can migrate a database server. However, you are free to suggest, and we'll be sharing the recording. And we'll be sharing our recording through this is being recorded on the YouTube channel, so you can see it later on as well on our YouTube channel. I'll share the links with you, and I would be looking forward for your suggestions, what next you would want to go through, or what next topic we should be discussing in our live session. So thank you everyone, and thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Vijay,
you.
and
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you
sir.
for
Yes, sir.
joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.